I know you guys are going to love this one. Ray Epps' attorney fires back at Joe Rogan's January 6th false flag absurdity. You ready for this? Quote, if Rogan is truly interested in focusing on who instigated the January 6th riots, Epps' lawyer said, he would find more truth in looking at the mirror. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The lawyer for Ray Epps is essentially accusing Joe Rogan of playing, of instigating January 6th. We can say it as having more instigated January 6th than the guy who is on camera telling people to go inside the building in the Capitol building. That is incredible. Joe Rogan wouldn't even have Donald Trump on his show and still hasn't. What an amazing timeline that we are in. The Daily Beast reports Ray Epps, the former Trump acolyte at the center of wild right-wing conspiracy theories about January 6th, is pushing back against the absurdity of podcaster Joe Rogan's claim that he clearly instigated the Capitol riots and helped the federal government orchestrate a false flag. During a broadcast of the Joe Rogan Experiment last week. Okay, did Joe change the name of his show and I missed it? This is the quality of reporting you get with the Daily Beast. It's the Joe Rogan Experience. Thank you very much. They say the conspiracy peddling comic once again pushed the unfounded claim that Epps was an undercover agent for the FBI who purposely incited MAGA supporters to storm the Capitol in an effort to damage then President Donald Trump. Okay, well, what we know is there have been a few court filings. Now, whether or not this is definitive proof, that's a different question. But there have been a few court filings about dozens of informants. The Proud Boys, I think, said 40 or so informants on the ground, video camera footage of them saying, let's go, keep going, things like that, pushing people forward. You then have Ray Epps on camera telling people to go in the building, tons of videos of it, storming on the front line, the Capitol grounds. And for some reason, he was never charged or arrested. Now, that doesn't mean he's an informant. It doesn't mean that he's an agent. He could be a cooperating witness. And he was naming names. There's a lot of things it could be. But Joe Rogan brings that up. It is, in my opinion, fair to say that Ray Epps instigated the events of January 6th. I'm not saying his sole responsibility. I'm not saying he works for the government or anything like that. I don't know. All I can say is this. The dude's on camera telling people to go into the Capitol, to go in. Dude is at the front line when they breach the Capitol grounds. They then did not prosecute him. I'm not surprised people think he was working with the government. I have no evidence to suggest that he was, other than circumstantial evidence, such as he was not criminally charged. But to be fair, that could also just point to the fact that he was originally, my understanding is he was originally listed as wanted, and then they took him off the list. He never got charged. Sounds like a cooperating witness. Sounds like he immediately just spilled the beans and said, I'll do anything you say. See, here's what happens. A bunch of these guys on January 6th were told they could take plea agreements where they'd serve no jail time if they blamed Donald Trump. It seems like there were government agents, law enforcement, trying to get Trump supporters to turn on Trump for some kind of benefit. Could it be, my friends, that Ray Epps was meant to serve a purpose, and the reason he was not criminally charged is because he cut a deal? I think Occam's razor, in my opinion, suggests not that this guy's an agent, but that he cut a deal of some sort. They probably said, we want you to denounce Trump. We want you to blame him for this, and then you won't serve any jail time. We know that other guys were offered this deal. Some refused it. Ray Epps, if this is a circumstance that happened to him, I think he likely took the deal considering what's happening. Or I'll tell you another conspiracy, because this is the problem with conspiracies. You can come up with a million reasons why a thing happens. How about the government intentionally ignored Ray Epps to create a conspiracy theory? See, I don't know, right? It could all be crazy. They say, here's the quote. The Jan 6 thing is bad, but also the intelligence agencies were involved in provoking people into the Capitol building. That's a fact. Rogan declared before invoking unfounded theories about Epps' supposed involvement in ginning up violence. We know this from a court filing in which it is purported 40 informants were involved in the Proud Boys case. To what degree that is intelligence agencies provoking people into the Capitol building? You know, this is interesting because Rogan said that's a fact. It's actually an opinion statement because, legally speaking, what does it mean to provoke someone into the building? Did Joe say that someone walked up with a badge and said, "You, sir, you should go do this thing"? Could it have been like 2 days before an intelligence agent said, "I think that sounds like a good idea," or keep going, keep going? The idea of provoking someone to the building can be from the very, very light, but the statement still stands true. Quote. So Jim Gaffigan asked him, we talked about this the other day. I don't know, but I do know that every other person who was involved in January 6th who was involved in coordinating the break into the Capitol and then instigating people, they were all arrested. This guy wasn't. Not only that, but they were defending him in the New York Times, the Washington Post, all these different things, saying Fox News is unjustly accused of him instigating when he clearly instigated. He did it on camera. I don't know if he was a Fed. I know a lot of people think he was a Fed. And it's for that reason. Why did the corporate press immediately rush to his defense? Now, I'll tell you another interesting thing about January 6th. There's a video of guys walking up to the door, and they're pointing to it from the inside, and the door gets opened. The only way to open the door is with a mag lock release. It's a very, very common door lock. It's a high-powered magnet, really hard to open. And so you press a button, which kills the electrical current, which then opens the door. That apparently happened. We don't know why that happened or who did it or who opened the door. We know cops were fanning people in. One guy got acquitted because the cops were fanning people in. You want to call that law enforcement provoking people into the Capitol? That is a fact. So let's go back. Let's talk about this. Joe Rogan said intelligence agencies were involved in provoking people into the Capitol. I'll say this. I don't know if that's absolutely true. I can say it's a fact that law enforcement provoked people to enter the Capitol. How do we know this? It is a fact that police officers were waving people like this. Now, the argument they make is the cop was waving to other cops. Make the argument. Someone was acquitted because of it. On video, you can see the cops go on like this waving and he goes in. You can see cops open the door and say, I disagree with it, but I respect it. You can see cops taking selfies with people. If that's not law enforcement inviting or provoking people in, I don't know what is. They go on to say that Rogan signed this contract, blah, blah, blah. The FBI says Ray Epps has never been an FBI source or an FBI employee. And staffers for the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack said there's no evidence that Epps was involved in planning or engineering the riots. Okay, wait, that makes no sense. He's yelling at people to go into the Capitol. Once again, it sounds like a fact statement. It's an opinion statement. What does engineering mean? Oh, no. They mean like, a longer plan other than just telling people to do things. He has never been an FBI source or employee. You see, that's the problem. And I think they do this on purpose. If he was truly not involved in any way with the FBI, then they would say this. Ray Epps has zero involvement and communication with the FBI outside of our efforts to bring people to justice for the events of January 6th. He has not been an employee of, a source. He has not been an informant. He has not provided anything or communicated with the FBI in any way. We have nothing to do with this guy. Have a nice day. You'd lay it out there. Source or employee. What does source mean? What does employee mean? Oh, he was a contractor. Is that what they're trying to say? You see, that's the game they play. He wasn't a source or an employee. He was a contractor. I'm not saying he was. I'm saying you see how they do these weasel words? They're going to mention that Epps, a former member of the Oath Keepers, voted for Trump twice and believed the election was rigged, said he was forced to sell his home and move to a remote trailer park due to death threats he's received over the conspiracy theory. He also blames Fox News peddling, blah, blah, blah. And he's apparently going to be suing Fox News. That was a big story. And that revealed that he may actually be criminally charged. They announced in that lawsuit that he was going to be criminally charged. And that Ray Epps' lawyer said in the filing, it's because of Fox News. It's not. I think Tucker Carlson, I don't know that Tucker Carlson directly claimed he was. I think Tucker Carlson said similar things that Joe Rogan said in that why wasn't he arrested? What was going on? I think we got to be careful because you can fall into these pit traps they set. Turns out Ray Epps had nothing to do with it. And the reason they didn't prosecute him was because they want you to turn on him and create infighting. Have you guys seen Sound of Freedom yet? You should watch Sound of Freedom. Let me tell you a story. When they go to the island in Sound of Freedom, there's the guy they call the Don. Jim Caviezel's character, Tim Ballard, he calls it in and he says, don't cuff the short, fat guy. Why? When they're all getting arrested, they take the fat guy, the Don, pat him on the back and walk him away as they all get arrested. And then Jim Caviezel says, your guy sold us out. They intentionally didn't cuff the guy to make the other criminals think he had ratted on them, when in fact, it was a sting from the get-go. You don't know the games they're playing. Epps could have just been some bumbling idiot who called for people to do this and then was sweating bullets, wondering if he'd ever be prosecuted. And the feds intentionally ignored him, knowing this would all happen. And Joe Rogan would say these things. I'm not saying Epps is innocent. I got no idea. I'm just saying, consider all. In the meantime, I love that they're claiming Joe Rogan instigated January 6th. That one is just chef's kiss. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all then.